Hello everyone, this is Xander and this is Before the Journey, My Early Childhood, Part 12. Before I continue, may I remind you to please, I cannot stress this enough, watch parts 1 through 11. If you start here, you are going to be lost. Okay? Now that we got that out of the way, let me go ahead and give you a recap. But before I give you a recap, once again, I want to apologize to my viewers for the long wait. I know I was supposed to get on to part 12, but things happened and I had to deal with some things before I can get back into doing videos. Lucky for you, I'm able to do videos now, so here I am, ready and willing to continue what is my story. Now for the recap. Where we last left off on part 11, I basically went into talking about the beginning of 4th grade. Before that, I talked about the end of summer. I talked about my new 4th grade teacher, Mr. V, the guidance counselor, Mr. Crown. I talked a little bit about turning the age of 10, the punishments I had to face in 4th grade and will for the next couple of years. I also mentioned a little bit about having to deal with my mother and my stepdad liking the punishments and letting you go into a little personal secret about me, about how I don't like to deal with strict people. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get on with the story. Okay, let's backtrack my memory here. I did mention in part 11 towards the end that I will get into the fall of 1996, which is where I mentioned talking about Halloween. Well, I don't think I'm only going to be talking about Halloween in this part. I may have time to talk about Thanksgiving as well as Christmas. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get on with the story once again. So, it was 1996 and it was the time of Halloween. For Halloween that year, I was dressing up as Wolverine from the X-Men. Pretty cool, right? Yes, sirree. Wolverine from the X-Men. And my mother chose that costume, and I couldn't be more thrilled. For her to choose an awesome costume back then that didn't include makeup, I'm all for it. I'm fine with dressing up as a superhero for Halloween. So let's do it. So I was Wolverine from the X-Men. And what came with that costume? The Wolverine claws. Sweet! I was going to have fun with this costume. So, totally looking forward to wearing it. I was Wolverine from the animated series and the comic books. Not to be confused with the films, because that didn't come out till later down the line. Which I'll get into later on. So, I remember that year for Halloween quite clearly. Trick-or-treating was awesome, but before that, I went to school, and going to school that Halloween day, my school was having a little costume get-together for the kids. of course, I dressed up as Wolverine. They had a costume contest. My music teacher was doing a little Halloween thing for the kids, which is like Christmas carols, but for Halloween instead. Like you had one Halloween song, which is a name of a wolf, a cross-eyed werewolf, and we were singing that song, and I thought it was pretty fun. Let's do like Halloween carols for music time. I guess music teacher was in the Halloween spirit, which was pretty cool. So I remember that day, and I do remember one of the things I did not like. My teacher. And because of school rules, I couldn't wear the claws. I came out of the bathroom. My teacher says, we're going to have to take those claws off. You can't wear them. I'm like, what? Dude, it's just plastic. It's part of the costume. I was thinking that in my mind, but in reality, if I was going to wear the costume, I was forced to hand it over. Schools have a thing about weapons of all sorts. Whether it's plastic or real, if it's plastic, it needs to be taken off. They're scared stupid of anything that looks like a weapon. And plastic claws for a costume is exactly included. Toy guns, toy knives, anything that screamed weapon, it needed to go off the costume. So now I had to pretend Wolverine's claws was inside of him, which sucked because I wanted to wear those claws. It was a great accessory to the costume, and I wasn't too thrilled. But school rules and teachers having to be a stickler for the school rules because of the principal, I had no choice but to fork it over. When you're a kid, rules of the school suck. Because, yeah, there is some rules that are good. I ain't gonna down it completely. But then there's some rules that are like, nah. Now I can understand real weapons, yes, that's fine to confiscate. But little plastic weapons, knives, claws, no. We can't even do anything with it. We can't hurt no one with it. Why are you gonna take it away from us? No. Just really stupid rule. Excuse me for the constant yawning. So, I went into the Halloween contest looking like I was safe. And of course, I don't know if I won or not, but I had fun wearing the costume. If I hadn't complained about wearing the claws, I wouldn't have been able to wear the costume, which would have sucked. So I had to sacrifice the Wolverine claws just to wear my costume. Keep yawning, I don't know why. I got some sleep last night. Wish I had caffeine and would be talking to you normal if I had caffeine. So, I would honestly say it was fun dressing up in school in the costume, and we had little costume activities, and I knew right then and there, even though I wasn't able to wear the claws for when I was in school, I was going to be able to wear them when I got home for trick-or-treating. So I kept that in mind, even though I couldn't wear them right then and there. I was going to be able to wear them for trick-or-treating. So staying positive, I thought about that. So wearing the claws wasn't a big deal after a while. I think for Halloween that year, we had fun going trick-or-treating. And what I didn't know is that the fun was just beginning. Holidays that year was going to be celebrated with a bang. But what I didn't know is that's probably going to be one of the last biggest holidays I would have for a while. I would celebrate the holidays, but that's going to be one of the best Christmases I would have in a while. Or Thanksgiving. I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't exactly remember what happened in the year of 96 and Thanksgiving. But knowing my stepdad was the one doing most of the affording. We were able to celebrate holidays because of how much money my stepdad was making. We were able to watch movies on pay-per-view because of how much money my stepdad was making. My stepdad was making a fortune. He was doing pretty good for himself, but he was making money in a not very legal way, which I mentioned in part 10. But look at it this way, we didn't care. We were living really good for ourselves. The man was making money. We were having a good life. But living comfortably does have its consequences. Because I'm going to tell you this straight up. And now I'm going to kind of take a pause from the story to give some pointers out to you. If you're living comfortably without having God in the middle of the good life you're living, everything that you're enjoying right then and there, it's going to come to an end. The good, comfortable life you're living is only temporary compared to what you're supposed to be living. Okay? If you are not going through the proper suffering period, and you just don't want to go through the suffering period, but you're living comfortably without worries, I'm going to tell you this straight up. You are going to go through a suffering period. And what me and my family did not know, we were going to go through a constant suffering period because we did not have God in our lives at that time. We believed in God, yes, but as far as listening and following and walking the way Jesus wanted us to, we were not doing that. And I apologize in advance if I'm offending anyone. I'm just saying what I believe in personally, okay? I apologize that I did not throw out that warning. So if you are offended, I sincerely apologize. Okay? I just realized that right now. And yes, I should have brought in the warning. So, just wanted to go ahead and clarify that right fast. But if you're living a life that where you actually do believe in God, and you do listen, and you do know a little bit about God, but not much, your life is going to spiral. You can live comfortably for so long, but it's going to come to an end. And we were at that stage where we were living comfortably, but we weren't living comfortably in a way where we suffered. And in living this comfortable life, the suffering comes into the mix. I'm telling you straight up, I wasn't even going to like it. I don't think none of us were. because we were used to living the good life. Now I look back on this and I think maybe suffering was for the best. But I also have to think I didn't suffer the right way, like I should have. And now I look at myself now and I am, in a way, suffering the right way, but differently. You want to live a good life? Fine. But you better have your suffering period and you better suffer correctly. That's all I got to say on that. Now back to the story. So, as I was saying, Thanksgiving was probably a big time for us. I don't exactly remember, but if I recall correctly, we probably had a feast that year. We had family members, friends come and visit. It was a great time for us. I don't exactly recall what we had that year, if it was turkey or ham. But I do recall it was a wonderful time. By Christmas time of that same year, as usual, the school always did something fun for the kids. I don't remember what fun things we did that year, but I do recall that we did a lot of fun things. Of course, the music teacher had her, the fall courses and the winter courses, and kids would come to sign up for course and sing or act. I didn't get into that until later down the line. Excuse me again, but getting into that later down the line, I would find it to be very fun. Our music teacher had a very big imagination, if you haven't figured that out earlier in this part. And her being a music teacher like she was, it was a good thing. She was fit for the job. She knew how to teach, but also be imaginative for kids. And I thought that was pretty cool. Mr. V, of course, being strict like he always is, he kind of dulled down a little during the holidays, but I wouldn't count on it. We still had standouts, we still had timeouts, so I didn't really count on it that much. I think on Christmas of '96, we celebrated that pretty big. Thanks to my stepdad, we were able to celebrate it. My mother, she was going through some personal things I won't get into till later, because I just got recent information about my mom that I don't think is appropriate to share right now. But I will get into that later because I want to keep track of the story. But my stepdad was, excuse me again, I keep yawning while doing this part. I don't know why. I just must be really tired. And I do get sleep. I really do. Well, thanks to my stepdad, we had a very good Christmas. There was a lot of toys, family members came, friends came, and we got one toy we got where it's the little stretch guy with beans and little foam inside of them. You pump them up and you stretch them out. I played with that toy way too many times that I literally ripped the plastic on the toy. and the foam started coming out. I'm like, no! I got a Connects toy set that year. Connects is like Legos, but a different structure. We got a bunch of toys to play with, but the one thing we did get was bikes. And I would have an adventure in learning how to ride a bike. And it wasn't a bike with training wheels. And this is my first time learning how to ride a bike. Little late on that, right? 9 going on 10. I should have been learning how to ride a bike at a very young age. And I should have started with training wheels. Never happened. I guess this time I needed to learn how to ride a bike. And my mother's like, probably thought, well, better late than never. So I'll be getting into that in like the next part. But I'm just going to say, actually no, I don't think I need to get into that until the next part. I got a little time on my hands. So that Christmas ended beautifully. My stepdad decided to make it snow outside, even though it's never snowed in Florida for a long time. I wasn't able to go out and enjoy it. My stepbrother did. But me, on the other hand, no. Probably had to clean, probably had to do something. But it would be with a bike, would be my next adventure. After Christmas, all the kids rode their bike. Everyone loved riding their bike, except for me. 1, 2, 3 times I fell on that bike, scraped my knee, screamed like a little girl in pain. Literally. It's now 1996, about to be 97. On the last week of that December, I was riding my bike and screaming in blood-curdling pain every time I scraped my knee. 1, 2, 3. Literally. Riding the bike and screaming in agonizing pain. I cannot stress enough how I wished they got me a bike to start off with training wheels. Realizing the error of their ways, my stepdad did something nice. He put training wheels on the bike. After all, I'm in learning phase, so let's put training wheels on there. So with the training wheels, I rode the bike with ease like everyone else. But pretty soon, those training wheels didn't last long. They ended up getting messed up, and my stepdad took it off the bike. I guess trying to fix the problem and get me to ride my bike wasn't working too well. So by the beginning of 97, and after not riding my bike for a while, because I gave up riding the bike. I did not want to ride the bike no more. I keep falling off. The training wheels didn't work. I just called it quits. My mother, not wanting to waste their money, decided, okay, I need to teach my son how to ride a bike. So one day she's like, I want you to put on your shoes and come outside. I'm like, okay. And then sitting right there in front of the window pane of what used to be the garage turned into a bedroom. Yes, if you remember, I told you my stepdad turned our garage into a bedroom. He wanted his own little lounge. My mother's like, get the bike. I'm like, okay. She's like, get your bike. Like, okay. So we go on the street, and she's like, ride the bike. I'm like, are you okay? Are you joking? I'm like thinking, what? So I go ahead and start riding the bike. Start getting wobbly. Put my foot down before I fall. It's like, try again. Mother's like, I'm like, okay. I try again. Wobbly again. Put my foot down. Now I'm getting tired. I do not want to do this. I called it quits on riding the bike a long time ago. I don't understand why she was making me do this. But there was a lesson involved that I would never forget. I'm like, Mom, I don't want to do this. Can we go back inside? She's like, no. You are not going back inside until you learn how to ride a bike. And that was after trying the second time. Then I'm like, okay. She's like, ride the bike. Let's go. With my feet on the pedals, praying to God for a miracle that I would literally learn how to ride this bike. So I put my feet on the pedals and I gradually start to ride. And when I put my feet on the pedals, I'm nervous because I'm thinking, am I going to fall? Am I going to mess up? And that third time, that third go around, finally I got the art of balance. It was all about balancing. That was the beauty of riding a bike, is balancing. Once I had that balance, my mom saw me and she's like, you're riding your bike. You're doing it. I'm like, look at me, Mom. I had a smile on my face. I'm like, Mom, look at me. I went from not liking riding a bike to literally liking it. I just rode that bike. For the first time, I actually knew what I was doing. My mom had that big white smile on her face. She's like, you're doing it. Good job. And she knew right then and there she did good. She taught me a lesson that day. When things get hard, don't quit. Kind of wish I followed through with that lesson as I got older, and you'll understand why later, why I did it. But her mentality of not quitting was amazing. She had a heart to be easygoing but firm. And that day, she taught me a very valuable lesson. And yeah, I should have applied it when I got older. I know what you're thinking. But it's just that don't give up mentality she had was a big pivotal thing for a 10-year-old to see. I learned how to ride the bike. And once I did, there was no more scraped knees. No more pain. Like all the other kids, I rode without the training wheels. And I had fun. I did go back inside. But I went back inside knowing that my mother did good for me. And taught me how to ride a bike. So basically I started off 1997 knowing and learning how to ride a bike. And that was one of the best out of all the Christmas gifts I got in 96. I can honestly say learning how to ride a bike and getting a bike for the first time even though it was late. Looking back now, was one of the best Christmas gifts I ever got. But it took learning to appreciate that bike. And I will forever be grateful for my mother helping me learn. out of her own time. That just proved one thing, that she knew how to be a parent even though she had her slip-ups. But now I have to face going back to school in 97. And there was a lot that was going to happen in 97. A lot of good and a lot of bad, and a lot of changes were going to come that year. And some were going to be painful, and some were going to be lessons I'll never forget. But I do know one thing though. I was 10 now, officially 10 going on 11. And I was in for a big surprise on what's to come. I also want to apologize for all the yawning. And yeah, this part was pretty much clean. But I can tell you one thing. Just because you got a break from the filthiness of my mouth, of the language and adult content, doesn't exactly mean the story's still family friendly. There's a lot that's going to happen that's going to bring that family friendly aspect back out the door. I probably didn't use a lot of adult content in this part because, furthermore, it wasn't really necessary. But it's about to be necessary here in the next part. So I end this by saying, y'all take care and God bless you.